Hello, future engineers. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're still new to my channel and you like what I'm doing, please don't forget to share my videos to your friends and to your friends' friends, to your younger brothers and sisters who would want to take up engineering in the future, and to your relatives. That's one way you can keep me going, inspired, and refreshed. Now, if you find my videos interesting and important to your studies, also please don't forget to subscribe. Hello, future engineers, subscribers, viewers, and students. Here is another video on functions in calculus. I hope that this will little by little improve your mathematical skills needed for the thinking of an engineering student so that you will become successful engineers in the future. So express the function by a formula. A man drives from Davao City to Cagayan de Oro City, say 300 kilometers at an average speed 60 kilometers per hour, stops 1 hour in Cagayan, and returns at a speed of 50 kilometers per hour. Neglecting variations of speed in route, use the signum function to express the distance x as a function of t for 0 less than equal to t less than equal to 12. In the preceding video, this problem was solved and expressions for distance from Davao City were set up and established, but it was algebraic way, and I'll do it again here. But this time, let's transform it into a form with signum function, of course with thinking. So the signum function is defined by signum of t is equal to -1 if t is negative, or in general x. Of course, there's no negative time. You may call this any variable x. So this is for t less than 0, or when t is negative. Then it is equal to 0, exactly 0, if t is equal to 0. And signum of t is +1 for t greater than 0, or when t is positive. So that's the definition. And the distance from Davao, when the car when the man drives at an average speed of 60 kph, is from distance equals speed times time, because the speed is constant. So it is represented by distance x equals speed times time, 60 times t for 0 less than equal to t less than equal to 5. But another way of expressing it is equal to 300 plus 60 times quantity t minus 5. So this will give us the same formula as that for 0 less than equal to t less than equal to 5. So if you check, when time is 0, distance is 0, because it is 300 plus negative 300. When time is 1, it will give us 60 kilometers, because 300 plus 60 times negative 4 is 60 kilometers. So this formula is correct for this uh, interval of time. Then x is 300 minus 5 minus 50 times t minus 6 for the case where 6 is less than equal to t less than equal to 12 hours. So we must establish a formula in terms of signum function that will be applicable for the entire period 0 to 12. So for 0 to 5 first, with signum function expression, x is equal to 300 minus 60 times t minus 5, signum of quantity t minus 5 for 0 less than equal to t less than equal to 5. So remember that this is correct from 0 to 5. It is equivalent to this formula. Now, in particular, when t is equal to 6 R, so this formula should be applicable. So we will adjust this by introducing only for exactly t equals 6 hours because the distance is still 300 from Davao City. We will add a term only for t equals 6 hours, and that term would be 60 times t minus 5. So x is 300 minus 300 plus 60 times t minus 5 for 0 less than equal to t less than equal to 5 from here, from this formula here. So we will develop a formula for t equals 6. X is 300 minus 60 times t minus 5, signum of t minus 5 plus 60 times t minus 5. And this is, in particular, t is 6. So we will show that this is 300 kilometers because remember that the car or the man stops in Cagayan, or the man reaches Cagayan in 5 hours because the distance is 300. 300 divided by 60 is 5 hours. Then remember that it is stated here that the man or the car stops for 1 hour. So the distance from Davao between 5 and 6 hours would still be 300 kilometers. So to make this 300 when t is 6, when we substitute it here, this is still 300 kilometers when t is 6 in particular. And this term is introduced only when time is 6, so that it is also applicable for t equals 6. The first two terms are applicable for this period, and when time is exactly 6 hours, we have to introduce this to adjust the formula so that it will give us 300 kilometers also. Now for 6 to 12, then it is either represented by this or with signum function. X is 300 minus 50 t minus 6 signum of quantity t minus 6. That is for 6 less than equal to t less than equal to 12. Now for t equals 5, so that this formula is also applicable when time is equal to 5. And remember, the distance is also 300 kilometers. So we will adjust this formula by introducing only for the case when t is exactly 5 by subtracting 50 times t minus 6. So x is 300 minus 50 quantity t minus 6 signum of quantity t minus 6, then minus 50 times t minus 6 for the case where t is 5. So when t is 5, evaluate this formula, and this is true when t is 5. The distance is uh, 300 kilometers. So if we check, this is minus 50 times 5 minus 6, so it is positive 50. And this is negative 1 because 5 minus 6 is negative, so negative 1. So that means 300 minus 50 is 250. 300 minus 50 times negative 1, so positive 50 times negative 1, so 250. Then this is negative 50 times 5 minus 6, so positive 50. So that goes back to 300 kilometers. So take note that this is also correct. Then adding these two blue equations, so we have 2x equals 300 plus 300 is 600, then minus 60 times t minus 5, signum of t minus 5 plus 60 times t minus 5, then minus 50 times t minus 6, signum of t minus 6, then minus 50 times t minus 6. Then dividing everything by 2, so x therefore is 300 minus 30 times quantity t minus 5, signum of t minus 5, plus 30 times t minus 5 minus 25 times t minus 6 signum of t minus 6 minus 25 of quantity t minus 6. Simplifying this expression, that would be the expression for the distance from Davao City, and this is now applicable for the time period 0 to 12. But before we simplify this, take note that 30t minus 25t is 5t, and 30 times negative 5 is negative 150, then negative 25 times negative 6 is positive 150, so the 150 term would be eliminated. Therefore, this 30 times t minus 5 and minus 25 times t minus 6 is reduced and simplified into just 5t, 30t minus 25t. So therefore, the final expression for the time interval 0 to 12 is 300 plus 5t minus 30 quantity t minus 5 signum of t minus 5, then minus 25 quantity t minus 6 signum of t minus 6, then that's the expression for 0 less than equal to t less than equal to 12. So you can check this formula for 0 up to 12, and this formula is really correct. So that's the answer for that expression. For the second part, draw the curve y equals 1/2 of quantity 1 minus signum of x, then close times x squared. So remember that signum of x is equal to -1 if x is less than 0 or x is negative. Then it is equal to 0 if x is 0, exactly 0, and it is equal to +1 if x is positive or x is greater than 0. Therefore, for this case, when x is less than 0 or negative, then signum of x is replaced by -1, then it becomes y equals 1/2 of quantity 1 minus -1 times x squared. Since 1 minus -1 is 2, divided by 2 is 1, so it reduces to x squared. So the curve would be y equals x squared, a parabola that is open upward, but we can only assign negative values of x. But remember that negative value square is positive. So y is always positive. It is a parabola that is open upward. But we can substitute only assign negative values of x, remember? Then when x is 0, it is also 0. So the point is filled because when x is 0, it is also 0. Then finally, when x is positive or greater or equal to 0, then signum of x is 1, so this becomes 1 minus 1, so 0. That means that the curve is y equals 0, or it is constant 0, which is the x-axis, for the case where x is positive or greater than 0. So we now have 1/2 of x squared equals 0, because when x is exactly 0, this is 0, then 1/2 of 1 times x squared. But x is 0, so therefore it is still 0. Then finally, y is equal to 0 for the case where x is greater than 0. So to plot, this is now the plotting. Now note that when x is 0, it is also 0, but it is for this case here. Then when x is -1, y is +1. So it passes through 0, supposedly an open hole, but when x is 0, it is also 0 because of the second definition. Then when x is -1 here, y is 1, so it passes through here. Here, when x is -2, y is 4, it passes through here, then extended. And when x is positive, greater than 0, it is always 0. So the graph looks as shown. So that's it, and I hope that you're able to understand the explanations and sketching of this curve.